so we can get things started. Let's go. All right, so here we are at episode 26. We will have the next. I will put out. I'll show you when the next one is at the end of tonight's episode. But it's already scheduled. We do have a couple coming up over the next month or so that are going to switch nights because of our travel schedule. There might be one Tuesday night, might be one Thursday night. But other than that, we are scheduled out for the next 6 months. So we're going to start with an hors d'oeuvre, and this one's kind of a different kind of thing. So this is one of my favorite places ever to go for sunsets. This is called Fisher Towers, and this is just outside of the town of Moab. And you can tell by the kind of scalloping down the bottom that this was a panoramic shot. I'm going to guess 4 or 5 shots. And it's in fair shape. It's okay. Let's go take a look. I guess I did basic edits on that. Yeah, I'm going to skip the basic edits on this one because you've seen this many times before. But I want to talk about how we can make it better. As always, before we get started, let's take a look at the image and see where the challenges are. First of all, the thing in the center, this big tall one, that formation is called the Titan. And there's so much going on around it that you do get to it, but there's so many things that are dragging you away. So that's something we have to address. Secondly, notice the sky. Now the sunset is actually pretty close to directly behind me at this point. Obviously a little off to the right of this, but there's quite a change in color temperature between the right side of the sky and the left side of the sky. So that's something we're going to want to address as well. Also the shadows. Now the shadows are lovely. Let's go that we don't need to go to 200%. Let's just go to 50%. Let's go to 50% magnification here and take a look really just into the shadows. Yeah, we can. Let's go 100%. And yes, they're nice and dark and they create a lot of base. But the problem is when you have one kind of area that gets very, very dark, it draws your eye. So we're going to have to address that as well. The other thing is we have this big formation over here. And just look at the physical size of it. It's taking up, this whole thing's taking up 1/3 of the image. And it's competing with everything else. So we're going to have to do something to minimize that as well. So I'm going to save the crop for the end. I have a couple ideas on different crops for this image. But let's go ahead and deal with the sky first because that's an obvious one. So we're going to actually do this by starting with a linear gradient. So up to the masking panel, and we're going to create a new mask and use a linear gradient. I see the temperature kind of transitioning right in through here. So I'm going to start about right here. And I'll come in from here. And I'm going to drag over into the sky color I want it to be more similar to. And obviously I don't want all the foreground. So what we're going to do is use the intersect command. And you come down to the mask, go to the 3 dots, and we're going to intersect the mask with the sky. That means only give us the things that are both the gradient and the sky, and it gives us a really cool mask. That's great. So what is the problem? Well, the blue's off a little bit. Let's make it a little bluer. So I'll click on that, make it bluer. Also, it's a little darker. So let's bring up the brightness on that as well. And that's looking pretty good. And as we bring the brightness up, I think we're going to go even a little bluer. And now we have a much better match to that. And to see where you are when you're doing this, if you come up to the mask panel next to the 3 dots, you see the eyeball. If you click on that, you can see the before and after. And you can see how much of a change there was. Now, as I look at it, I decide, I think I want the gradation to come over a little further. So I can click on the mask and gradate it further over into the other side. So let's hit enter on that and eyeball it again. And I think I like that. This actually might still be a smidge dark. Let's mess with the gradient a little bit more. So I'm going to hit on there. Oh, where'd my gradient go? Where'd my mask go? Sorry, here it is. Okay, here's my mask. So let's click on the black dot again. I'm going to bring the square, which is the 50% mark, a little further over, and I think that's going to be a better answer. So let's do that. And now we turn the mask on and off, and yeah, that's much better. Okay, that's good. Now while we've got this, the sky looks like it could use a little help as well. Let's create another new mask just with the sky. And let's add some let's add a little contrast. I think I'm going to brighten the whole thing up a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. And then let's scroll down to clarity. Put some clarity in there, and let's do a little dehaze. Now the dehaze is going to make the blue a little bit too dark for my liking. So to fix that, we're going to come up to the point color. Well, let's get the point color eyedropper, come up to the blue, and we haven't done a denoise yet. You can see, again, understand that when you use the point dropper, you're now looking at the image at 300%, so there really isn't that much noise in here. But I am going to bring down the saturation a smidge, and I'm going to lighten up the sky a smidge. And let's see, let's push it over a little more blue. Nope. Yeah, actually, yes. Let's come over here. That looks a lot better. So now we can see the before and after on the sky, again with the eyeball, and you can see there's our before and after, and look how much more life the clouds have. So that's good. All right, so we're good with that. Let's just hit enter. What else? Now that we've gotten the sky fixed, we've got this big mass over here. Now, in part, it's too big. Do you want to crop now? Yeah, let's do a first crop here. So I'm going to hit the R tool, and you can see here's the actual entire thing. There's obviously more than we need here. So let's bring in, I'm thinking, let's go ahead. I don't usually do this. I'm going to put the tower right on my left golden ratio grid. I've got a little bit too much on the bottom, and that's pretty conventional. Let's go with that. Okay, now we're a little bit better off because now the tower is in a strong point. However, this thing over here is still drawing a little bit too much attention. So how can we deal with this? I'm going to use a gradient again. I'm going to cut to the chase and just hit the M key. And this time the gradient's going to be from here over towards the tower. And what I want to do is subtract the sky in this case. So we'll just scroll down, click on subtract, and tell it let's get rid of the sky. I'm actually going to bring up the brightness a smidge, but I want to pull down on the saturation. So let's bring that down so we can take a little bit of interest away from it. And let's add a little bit more contrast to the area. We'll do that by bringing the blacks down a little bit. I'm also going to change the color temperature a little bit. This is cheating a little bit, but if you want to get the eye away from something, take some of the saturation out of it and make it the opposite color. So see, I can actually take the color out of it by pushing to the blue. I'm going to slightly push to the blue to the point where the color change is almost going to become subliminal. And lastly, let's see if we add a little more contrast into here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now it barely looks like I did anything, but look at the before and after. Look at the color change and how it just became less important in the frame while everything else has got all of that color in it. Now the weird thing about this place, if you've ever been here, this is actually fairly subdued for what sunset looks here. The place literally glows orange red, but I wanted to keep it a little more natural looking. All right, so what else did I mention were the problems? The shadows here are kind of dark. Let's bring them up a little bit, but to do that, I'm going to do it locally. So I'm going to get a brush. Brush, remember, is the K key. I've got auto mask on. I'm going to make a nice big brush and just go through the bottom here and click around the things that are kind of almost black over here, just like that. Let's bring up the exposure on those. That's good. Let's bring up the shadows, and let's bring up the blacks. There are still nice dark shadows there. It's still got a nice bit of contrast. But the difference is, again, we turn this on and off. Look at the before and after. we've opened up the details in here, and we don't have the deep blacks that are drawing the eye. All right, I think we're in pretty good shape. Actually, while we're here, this formation in here might be a smidge dark. I could start over and do just it, or I can bring the flow down. I'm going to go down to about 76%, and click in here. And did you see what it just did? Let me undo that. Watch in here, when I click in here, and you see it lightens up just a little bit. You would think 75% would still be pretty strong. It's not. The difference between 175% on the flow of the brush is a lot. And you can see it just opened it up a little bit, and it cut down on the contrast enough to not draw the eye quite as much, because again, we're after getting this thing. So let's move on to that. So I'm going to hit K for another brush. We've got auto mask on. All right, what do I need to do? Actually, you know what? I'm not going to use K. I'm just going to leave that one blank. I'm going to hit Shift M, which is a linear or a radial gradient. And I'm going to create a nice big tight oval here. And I'm going to angle it. Now, because the sun is hitting the right side of the tower, I'm going to angle this from the bottom up to there. And yeah, it's about the area I want. But we obviously don't want the sky as part of this, so we just scroll down on this mask to subtract and tell it to subtract the sky from there. Now with this, let's bring up the brightness a little bit in there. That's good. Actually, I think I might make this one even a little warmer. Let's make it a little yellow. Yeah, that's adding, and it's very subliminal. You can barely see it, but your eye can. Your brain is seeing it. Watch what happens when we turn it off. Look at the before and after with that gradient. Now, as I've done this, I'm going to do a couple. I'm going to hit K now. In this area right in here, let me turn my flow back up. In this area right here, I do want to maintain the shadow depth, so we're going to bring the blacks down. So you can see as we do it, we can make it really black. I just want to make sure they're not lost. And you know what? We're in pretty good shape here. Let's finish this off. I'm going to, what am I going to do? Let's go ahead and do one thing first. Let's go ahead and add our vignette, because that's going to affect how we see the image as well. So I'm going to bring in a decent vignette. Maybe just a -8 is good, because we still need to do some more cropping here. I still think there might be too much over here. There's probably too much sky overhead. And as much as I love these formations down here, they do have a tendency to draw the eye, and we want this thing to be the subject. So let's go ahead and make a virtual copy. So Command apostrophe. Actually, I'm going to do that twice, because I'm going to completely reset the first one so you can see that's actually what the raw looked like that we turned into that. But we're going to take it further. All right, let's go ahead and hit R for cropping. And I mentioned I thought there might be a little bit too much over there, so I'm going to come in here a little bit from the right, pull down off the sky. And I hate to get rid of this, but if I want the towers to be the subject, I need to get rid of them a little bit. And I want to put a little bit of this back. And I think something about like that. So let's go. Yeah, we got our vignette. We can maybe make the vignette a little darker now. And I think I can live with that. But wait, let's do one more thing. Let's add a little bit more pop to this. Let's go into Photo, Edit In. Let's go to our friend Viveza that we used Viveza a lot in our Finishing Touches Deep Dive class a week ago. Let's go ahead and see how we can use Viveza both globally and locally. I want to add some more structure to the clouds. And the beauty of Viveza is that, unlike Clarity, which can start causing a lot of halos and dehaze, structure you can add a lot, and it doesn't seem to add much of a halo problem. And look what I just dragged the slider up and down. Look what it does. It's like putting on a pair of polarized sunglasses. Love it. And I can also do local stuff. We'll do that in a second. So the sky looks good. Actually, I think the sky might be a little dark. Warmth is something I use all the time here. Let's see if it needs less. That's what we see. We take out warmth and it goes kind of dull. Or if we go right, it gets a little supernatural. Even though I know, well, you know what? The heck with it. I know the place. I've been here a bunch of times. I know the place looks this supernaturally glowing at sunset. Diane, you're sitting next to me. Will you back me up on that?
Yes.
Yeah, she's been here. She's seen this. The place is crazy how saturated it is. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's do a couple local things. And you do that with this little
Lynn's backing you up too.
ellipse thing here. I'm going to click up in the sky, give myself a nice big oval, and then I'm going to move it. And it's only going to affect, I don't have to just do an intersect or anything with this because it's looking at this dot right here to make its adjustments. I'm going to add a little more structure into these clouds. I'm also going to click on the brightness and bring that up a little bit. And it's made the blue a little pale, so let's add a little bit more blue back into it. Or maybe not. You know what? Let's add a little warmth to it. Maybe make the clouds a little warmer. Yeah, okay, I can live with that. And when you find a setting that you like, you can hold down the Option or Alt key, click on the dot, and then bring it over to other pieces of the image. And that allows you to do that. Great. Let's do one more. Again, with our center tower here, I'm going to extend it up and extend it down. And let's see how it brightens up this a little. That's not the answer. I think we're going to have to do something else back in Lightroom to finish this off. Warmth-wise, nope, warmth is good. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring this thing over here and bring it out. I think I'm going to bring this up a little bit brightness-wise, but I'm going to take a little more saturation out of it, just to take some of the visual interest away from it. And let's drag this before-after slider, and we get to see, doesn't it just look like you just put on a pair of Polaroid sunglasses? It's the greatest tool for finishing off images. So we'll go ahead and hit and apply. I see one thing I missed over here. There's a contrail over here. That's got to go. And we can just use the regular Band-Aid tool for that. Feather I've got turned off. I want a hard edge on this. And all you have to do is click once on one end, hold down the Shift key, go to the other end, and click one more time, and it drags all the way across. Here's a little fragment of one. I don't like where it's sampled from. I'm going to bring it over here. And yeah, I think we're good. Now, we just looked at that at 100%. And it's taking me somewhere I didn't plan on going. But I'm going to ask you guys if you want to go there. I noticed that 100% with all of the stuff we've done. Oh, and I never denoise the thing. You see the halos? Can you see them on the edge here? You want to get rid of them? You want to get rid of the halos? We'll have to send it into Photoshop for that. So let's go ahead. But before we do that, I don't like the noise in the sky. In the sandstone, it doesn't really matter. But the sky, it's a little bit of a problem. So let's create another mask with the sky. And we're going to do a manual denoise, which is down in detail here. And right here, noise reduction, I'm going to bring that way up and bring down sharpness. And just those two sliders will get rid of a lot of noise. We zoom in to 100% now. It's much better than it was. All right, let's send this into Photoshop. Command-E with our changes. And Command-J to make a copy of our background. I'm not going to do the whole image. I'm not going to make you just sit here and watch this, but let's zoom in. All right, this is almost 200%, but now we can see the halo. So how do we get rid of it? It's actually fairly easy. Get the stamp tool right here. You need to change the blending mode because the halo is lighter, right? So we're going to sample it with the sky next to it, and the thing it's up against is darker. So what we want is darken. which means only things that are lighter than where we sample from will get painted on. So you hold down the Alt Option to sample. I just sampled from right here, and watch, I can just come right up against the edges and paint down, and no more halo. Whoops, I just got sloppy. I'm going to sample from up here, come down along this edge, and that's it. That's as easy as it is. Yeah, it's going to be a little tedious. You're going to have to go around. But again, I'll just turn this layer on and off, and you can see, in fact, we can zoom in some more. If you have to go to 300% to see your halo, it's really not that bad. But there's the before. Now you can see the halo really strongly. Again, that's at 300%. But you see how nice a job that tool does in getting rid of it. So stamp tool, darken. And that's that. All right. So I'm not going to bother finishing it because you get it. So let's go back over into Lightroom. All right, here we are. And is there anything else we want to do? Even if we go back to our first edit and go full screen, there's our first edit. And I don't know, what do you think? Do you like the closer or do you like the further back? It's kind of, yeah, it's personal preference. There's part of me that likes this better. What do you think? Do you think it's this is too much down here and too much up there? You like this one, Russ? Yeah, I think I do too. I was trying to, I like that one as well. So here's what I would say about these two choices. All right, this one, it does need a bit of a crop. So let's come out of full screen. If I was going to make this my final, I would take a little bit down from the sky. I'm going to leave everything here, and I might even add a little bit more left to right. And if I can get a little more out of the bottom. Okay, that's good. The nice thing about this image is, yeah, we've got a better feel of the place because the bottom here. The nice thing about this one is this would work better as a smaller image. So if you're going to make yourself a decent sized print, which to me means at least 20 inches across, this is going to work. But if you just want to do, an 8 by 10 or 6, even, I don't know, whatever the next size, 11 by 14, this is good because it's still going to have enough physical size for the tower itself. But yeah, I think I agree. I think even though this thing's here, it is in real life there. I think I do like this image better. Okay, I spent way more time on that than I wanted to. Any questions before we move on?
Robert just wanted to know how to get there. So
Robert wanted to know how to get there? Okay. Yes, head north on Main Street in Moab and make a right at the river.
Yeah, I just said watch out for the very small sign.
Okay. All right, time for soup. And for soup, we're going to go to the beach. And this looks like some really bizarre forced perspective shot.
It isn't.
It actually isn't. There's a giant chair there. So it just kind of gives you that look. This is in Provincetown on Cape Cod. Let me make a virtual copy of that so we can go back to this. What is the first problem? The horizon. Let's fix that. So we'll go to the crop tool. We're going to use the angle tool and just click on one end of the horizon that should be straight and drag over to the other side, and now it's straight. So that was easy enough. So let's bring that down a little bit so I can go a little bit further left and right. And let's hit enter on that. Okay, let's do the basics. Let's just go into the basics, and we're going to bring up the shadows pretty much all the way. Bring the highlights down a little bit. Let's go all the way because we're going to bring up the exposure a bit. And then we'll add a little bit of texture and clarity. Okay, that helps. Need some saturation. It's the whole thing's kind of flat. All right, so now that we're here, I mean, the chair looks great. The sand is fine. These people are maybe a little bit too shadowed, and the sky, even though it was kind of pale, let's bring it up a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is take our people here. I don't know who these people are. They just happen to be walking along. But let's go to the masks, and I'm going to hit K for brush. I've got auto mask on, and whoops, I had way too much bigger mask there. Let's go a little smaller. There we go. And actually, wait a second. Is there a select people in this thing now? I kind of think there was. Select people. Let's just do that. Let's see if they can do a better job than us bothering with the mask. And the answer is no. Can't find the people. All right, fine, be that way. We'll do it manually. Get a brush. All right. So let's just select our people. They're kind of backlit, so we just want to open up. We don't need to open up the back of the legs, actually. We just want to get the dark parts. And the hat is bright as well. All right, so that's good enough. Let's just bring up the exposure on them, and there they are. They look lovely. All right, that's good. Before we get to the sky, I see some problems. This cutoff boat here, I don't like this boat. This is kind of a mess. We're going to have to use generative AI for this. So let's hit the removal tool, which is Q, if you remember that. And we want the generative AI remover, which is this thing right here. So let's do the easy one first. This one's not going to take any work at all. In fact, we probably could have just used the Band-Aid one for this, but since we're going to use the generative AI, let's just go ahead and do it. And we'll click on remove, and it's not going to struggle to do this at all. This is an easy one. And we got 1, 2, 3. I think I like 2 better. 2, 1. One more. Where'd 1 go? Where's 1? Actually, you know what? 1 is the least obvious, so I'm going to go with 1. Now we got to work a little bit for this boat over here. So let's get our removal tool again. And in fact, I'm going to zoom in. What are we at? I'm going to go to 200% on this. So I want to work closely, even though we're beyond the resolution of the image. Because, yeah, I can see, I'm assuming that's the motor of that back boat. So I'm going to carefully do this. I'm going to get rid of this buoy too, just in case. And let's just get rid of this thing. I'm going to also make it a point to try to leave that line alone, because that's kind of important. All right, so I'm just dragging across this thing. And let's see how good a job Lightroom does. Let's see what it decides to add or subtract from that. And a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to click on subtract. And by the way, when we used the brush before to get that straight line, that works here as well. So if I click once here, come over to the edge of this, hold down the shift key, it draws a straight line for there as well. Now you don't have to fix this whole thing, because it's going to see the stuff behind it like that. And let's just fix the front of the boat here. And again, we've got a straight line here, so I can let go, hold down shift, and look, it draws a nice straight line across the bow of that boat. And what else do I want to do? I want the buoy, and I really want this line. I'm going to have to give it a bit of room around it, because if I don't, it's going to get rid of it. Let's see how good a job Lightroom will do with that. So let's click on remove. I could always... Okay, it's a little weird. The front of the boat got weird. Let's see, 1, 2... All right, I can live with 3, but what we need to do is redo this one little bit. So we'll hit enter on that, and now we're going to do another one. Just this front part's a little bit weird. And again, we're looking at this. So what did I say percentage? We're looking at this at 200%. So let's click on remove for that and see how it fits. It's probably going to lose us the line. Oh, it's still there. Oh, and that did a good job. Great. So that's gone. Now let's come over to the other side here. This looks like a mess. So let's do the same thing here. And again, we've got straight lines here. So I can click on this corner, hold down the shift key, come up to here, and we get the straight line. We got some fishing poles. This whole boat can go. Buoy can go. Let's get rid of this boat. And again, you can have some overlap with the other objects, because Lightroom's going to use that as a reference for what should be there, even though it's going to try to remove most of this stuff. So let's go ahead and choose that. And let's click on remove and see what, again, Lightroom comes up with. So even though there's some of the chair selected, you can see it ignored that. And it did actually a pretty phenomenal job. Let's see how the ocean water changes a little bit. You know what? I think our original, I think the 1 is good. So let's zoom out of that, and that looks great. Yeah, we can live with that. Now let's deal with the sky. So for the sky, we need to come up to create a new mask. We'll select the sky here. Pretty good job. Let's add some contrast. This is going to need dehaze and saturation. Let's do a dehaze first. So we'll scroll down to that. And yeah, the problem with dehaze, there's not much color definition in this sky. So let's give it a little bit. I don't want to overdo it. We'll give it that much, but now we're going to have to go to the point color and click on the sky up here, and you can see it's kind of a pale. Let's bring it into the blues a little bit. And I don't want to mess with this too much. I'll add a little more saturation into it. But now we're going to have to deal with the sky, the cloud shadows separately because they've gone too blue. So we're going to need to hit a brush again for this. We've got auto mask on our brush. There it is. So I'm just going to drag, I'm just going to point click. I'm just going through the deepest shadows that have gone a little bit too blue to my liking. So what does that mean? It means we're going to have to add some yellow into these clouds and perhaps desaturate them a bit as well. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's add a little bit of yellow because that's the opposite. See, if you go too much, we get yellow clouds. We don't want that. I just want to neutralize it. I want to get back to closer to gray, and that's all I wanted. I think that's good enough. Now, there's one last thing. All right, so we're still in pretty good shape when you consider. Let's go full screen. Here's where we are. There's where we were. So it certainly looks a heck of a lot better. But there's something else I want to do. I want to emphasize our little people over here. Let's see if we can make them a little bigger. So we're going to use transform. And these are tools I use all the time. Especially over the last 6 months, I've really become enamored with the transform panel, especially the horizontal slider. It's like using a view camera. And I'm going to push the horizontal slider to the left and watch what it does. Oh, I can make it really weird. But just going over a little, see how it makes the people on the left like they're getting closer. They're getting a little bit bigger. Now I'm making them fatter too, but we're going to fix that. Let's do about right here. And then we'll fix them getting a little fat with the aspect slider right here. And as we push this to the right, I can even make them skinnier. If this was a paying job, they'd love that. Just bring it over a little bit to put them back to what their real aspect ratio is. Strangely enough, as we did that, the horizon re-skewed from our horizontal move. You can see the horizon's dipping to the right a little bit. So we got to go back to here, click on our angle tool again. I'll come over, start over on the right here, drag it across to straighten that out, and that looks good. And I think we're done. Let's go ahead and add a little vignette to this, just a slight one. Just enough that you wouldn't even notice. And great. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. Let's go full screen. There was the image we started with. And that's what we turned it into. And I'm sure if these people wanted this image, they would be very happy with the result. But look at, we got rid of all the distractions. We got rid of the extra boats over here. We got rid of all the boats over here. Now you look at two things, the big chair and the people walking up, and the rest is just background. So I think that was a successful edit, and we can move on. Any questions in there? Oh, denoise. Somebody mentioned denoise. Yes, let's denoise. Actually, let's see. Did I do it? Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Actually, I'm just going to denoise the sky. Because as I look in the foreground, oh, that's 200%. Let's look at it 100%. Is there any noise to speak of in like the chair? You know what, there is a little bit. So let's all right, let's see what happens. It's going to screw up where the other things, the generative AI stuff was. So I'm going to do a manual denoise on this rather than the auto. So I'm going to do the manual noise reduction with luminance and color, and that should smooth things out nicely at 100%, and it did. That actually, if anything, I might have taken it down too far. Let's bring the detail slider up a little bit so that we can see the sharp edges. Yeah, that worked. Yep, so that's, we can look at that at 100%, and yes, that's looking pretty good. All right, any other questions? Red spot between the slats. Ah, who said that? Tim Rab. Tim, you're a pain in the derriere, and you're right. So, what's the best way to get rid of this? I think just generic. Let's see if we can just use the Band-Aid one for this. I've got feather turned off. So I'm just going to make our thing here, our sample tool, just maybe a smidge bigger. And I'm going to click once and click again. And it's going to sample from a really weird spot. So I'm going to come out here. And that was a complete fail also. Guess what that means? That means that didn't work. What does that mean? That means we have to do the generative AI here. So let's just draw over top of that. And of course, as we zoom into this, we see stuff here and stuff here. So I'm just going to let it do its own thing. And there we go. It's gone. Now, of course, now that that's gone, this thing here is bothering you. These are bothering you. Those are bothering you. And I'll tell you what, since I'm sending you these images after this, if you want to go in and finish it off, have at it. I'm done. That was a good catch. I hadn't seen that. Thank you, Tim. Anything else? All right, let's move along.
Oh,
What? Question?
Robert's vignette.
Robert's vignette.
He asked about the vignette on this image.
The vignette on this image, what about it?
Did you do one?
Let's look. Yes, I did. See?
Okay.
And if we turn it on and off, you can see it's a subtle one, but it has the same effect. It has that subliminal effect of keeping you from leaving the image. So yes, it's there. That's the best kind of vignette, when you can't tell if it was done or not, because it doesn't become obvious you used a vignette, but it's enough to bring you back into the middle of the image. Good catches. All right, appetizers. It's already 10 after 8. Is it me or is this flying by tonight for some reason? I don't know. Okay, appetizers. This is Gayhead Light, sometimes called Aquina Light. This is on Nantucket. And what's the problem? Well, it's pretty obvious, really. The lighthouse itself is a bit skewed, which means we can't fix this in Lightroom. This is a Photoshop thing. So before we go anywhere, we can zoom in on it. This is pretty clean. I don't see any noise in here, but we'll run a denoise on it. But let's just do a couple of things first. The lighthouse I'd like to add a little bit of saturation to, so let's use the subject detector, and beautiful job on that. Let's warm it up a little bit because the brick really is a lovely brick red. Let's add a little warmth. We'll push it to the red a smidge. Let's add some saturation. Yeah, it's good. And let's bring down the highlights. The right side of it is maybe a little bit too bright. Right here, this part bothers me a little bit. In fact, we're going to deal with that separately. So let's hit K to get a brush. And I'm going to click once here and come down to the bottom of the lighthouse and click once there. And, oh, even without me subtracting, that's pretty good. So let's bring that down a smidge in brightness. Yeah, that's better. I'm even going to make it a little dark. And let's add a little bit more yellow to that, which will add a little bit of more warmth to it. Now, as I do that, you know what? I'm going to bring my flow down to about 80%, and I'm going to add a little bit of that in here as well, just to even it out. And while we're at it, let's come up there. Okay, that looks good. Because again, let's look at the before and after. There's the before and after. Excuse me. I just wanted to even it out and make it look kind of normalish. Also on the bottom here, this whole foliage thing to me looks maybe a little too yellow. I know there's greens here, but the grasses are a little too yellow for me. I think I'd like them a little brighter as well. So we're going to use a linear gradient, which is M. So I'm going to click M, and this is one of those times we're going to use multiple things to subtract. So I've got all of the foliage in there. We're going to first subtract the subject, which was the lighthouse. Sorry, got rid of that. Now we're going to subtract the sky. And people have a tendency to think you only get to pick one of these. You could pick all of them. You can just keep doing this and it'll keep getting rid of the stuff you choose. So there we have just the foreground. And I did this as a vignette, as a radial gradient or linear gradient, because I wanted it to be stronger at the bottom, the effect we choose. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it over to the blue a little bit. Yeah, that looks more natural. And then we're going to bring up the brightness. And look how much better that looks. In fact, as we do that, I'm going to even go a little bluer, because I don't remember the grass being quite that yellow. I'm going to add a little saturation back in to get the greens up, and that looks great. Again, let's look at it before and after. Here, we'll hide that mask. There's the before, and there's the after. Doesn't that look better? All right, so now we have the 900-pound gorilla in the room. That's this. Before we do that, since we didn't do any generative fills here, let's go to the details panel, and we'll click on denoise, just to make sure that this solid blue sky remains pristine. Because if there's any pixel peepers out there, they're going to be looking at it up close and personal. All right, so now we can zoom in 100%. That's 200% on that sky. We're zoomed in at 200%. There's not a pixel to be seen, so perfect. Let's send this thing into Photoshop. So Command E, because we got to straighten out the lighthouse. So Command E to open this in Photoshop. There we go. I'm going to do a Command J to make a copy of the background. And remember now, Photoshop keeps adding some of the Lightroom stuff. We've had select subject for a bit. Let's select that. And there's our lighthouse. And that's the thing we need to fix. So I'm going to copy this and put it on another layer. So Command C, Command V, just as if you're word processing. So now we have a layer that's just that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hide that, because this is the copy we made. And I'm going to hide the background, because what I really want to do is I want to get rid of this lighthouse. But let's see if we can get away with it without doing that first. So I need some rulers. So Command or Control R brings up the rulers, top and bottom. This allows me to get some guidelines. So I'm going to click on the left ruler and just drag over and put one right down the middle so we can see how tilted we are. Yes, we have a question.
Horizontal lines in the sky.
Horizontal lines in the sky.
Do you see
No.
I think it's a
Must be a zoom artifact.
artifact in the zoom.
Yeah. Is anybody else seeing?
I see it on mine, but I don't see it there.
Okay. Does anybody else see horizontal lines here? No? Okay. Joe, you were seeing horizontal lines?
Russ,
Joe was nodding his head. And Russ, are they still there?
yes.
All right. It must
I'm
be.
seeing it,
Oh, Diane's seeing it. Okay.
but it's not there.
It's not on. And Diane's right next to me, so they're not there. You're all hallucinating. Now, it must be a zoom artifact. Okay, so we have a vertical that is showing us that the lighthouse is a bit skewed. I'm also going to do a horizontal. I'm going to drag from the top down, because I'm going to go right to the top of that kind of walkway, and I put it right on the edge here, and you can see over here is dipping down a bit. So let's see if we can get away with just using the free transform tool, which is under Edit, Free Transform, or Command or Control T. Now, to use this tool for this type of fixing, you have to hold down the Command key or right click and grab just a point. And you can see first, I'm just bringing it up a little on the right so that this piece of the walkway is even all the way across. Unfortunately, when I did that, look what it did to the top. This part is off. So we might have to do this actually in two different pieces. Or, better yet, I'm just going to hit enter on that. What we really need to do, I'm going to select the top of this thing. I'm going to select just this piece, and we're going to use the warp tool, which is hidden under Transform, Warp. which will give us more localized control. So I'm looking at this top piece is the part that's falling down a little bit on the left. So I'm just going to click on that. Look at that. I can just drag it up so that it's even to the thing over here. Actually, I think we're done. I think that fixed it. Because also you can look at the window supports, the window frame, and you can see that they're straight now. They're straight up and down. Great. So let's deselect that. And did we pick up any of the other lighthouse behind? I think we got away with it. Let's see. Nope, there it is. There's a double. You can see it. Look here. There's a double on the railing that isn't really there. We take away the one we moved. See that? There's a double. So what does that mean? It means we got to get rid of the one underneath it. Question?
Yeah, Tim, why not tilt the whole frame with the crop tool?
Why not tilt the whole frame with the crop tool? Because it is not just tilted, it's distorted. And whenever you shoot a vertical structure that's not in the middle, especially something you're looking up at like a lighthouse, it's going to be different. The tilt is going to be different as you go up the thing. As you noticed when we first did a tilt, where we just used the free transform tool, we pulled up this side, but it accentuated how this was screwed up. So sometimes you can get away with that. With lighthouses, rarely. All right, so I know the lighthouse is straight. Let's go to View, Guides, Clear them. We'll get rid of those. We don't need the rulers anymore, so Command-R to get rid of those. So what we need to do is hide this, and I need to get rid of the one behind it. So let's see if we can do, and it doesn't have to be a really clean one. Let's just take this much, and we can just go to fill. Oh, I have to go to the layer that it's actually on. Let's go to Edit Fill, Content Aware, and let's see what it does. There we go. That's really what I was after. We could do some more. We could come down here, but the bottom was not a problem. And once more, again, Edit Fill, Content Aware. Okay. Beautiful, because now when we put our repaired lighthouse in, there we go. So now we can see there's the before and after. It moved to the clouds behind a little bit. Does that's because the fill we did? Actually, I kind of like it. It put a little piece of cloud right there. In this case, I like it, so I'm not going to worry about it. But there we go. We went from there. That one little skewing is the kind of thing that throws you off. All right, so I'm going to save this and send it back into Lightroom. And let's tab back over to Lightroom. And here is our edited version. And what would I do with this? Well, you know what? This could use a little bit of light shaping. And again, here's the before. There's our before. There, see how you can see how much of a difference there is now with that shift. What would I do with this? The sky. Let's take a look at that. Let's go to the color mixer, because I find this a great tool to use to see if a color's off a little bit. When you have this upside down triangle here with the blue, you get to see that it's this pushed to the cyan a little bit. I like my skies a little bluer, so I'm just going to come over into the middle a little bit more. And what the heck? I used to shoot Kodachrome, so I want a Kodachrome blue. Good. Now, in the foreground, it needs a little variation. And there is a sun coming off for the right, so my mind tells me that with the shadow over here, that some of the stuff over here, at least that's being hidden by some of the foliage, should be a little bit darker. So let's hit K. I've got auto mask on. Let's go ahead and just pick some air up. My flow is down. Let's go to 100%. Whoops, let me undo that. Let's pick in here. And alongside this one, I'm picking the left side since the sun's coming in this direction. And some of the places I just want to darken up a bit. Also, I'm simulating, well, what if there are clouds off to the right somewhere? There would be different lights and darks through here. So with those pieces painted in, let's bring the exposure down and watch what happens. And look at how much more dimension there is. And also what happens when you have a shadow, you lose some saturation. Let's bring some saturation down on that. And also they have a tendency to go a little bluer, so let's add a little blue. And as I look at it, I think that's a little too much. Let me back off on that a smidge. But again, does it look like I really did anything until you turn it on and off? Watch. Look at the difference. And as I look at it, I think it's a little, maybe I did still a little too much. Let's just a smidge, and let's see it on and off. Yeah, I like that. That looks good. Cool. The amount of sky is fine. Left and right, that's up to you. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with this anymore. I think we're good. I think it's time to move on. Because it's already 8:24 and we have a main course and a dessert to do. And the main course is fun. Now, the basic edits have been done to these images. You guys have seen that many times. But what happened here, let me bring up the info button. We hit the I key. And you can see when this was taken. This was taken last September. No, it wasn't 4:03 a.m. This is in Ireland, so add, what, 5 hours? Add 5 hours to this. So it was 9:03. I took a little walk to the right, and then I came back, and here's what I changed position a little bit, and here's what I saw. You can see here we are, 4:32. So this is just less than a half hour later. Let me get rid of the eye now. And although I preferred this foreground brush, I like the clouds behind this so much better. So how can I get it all? We're going to try a composite. Since I was kind of in the same place, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. But we're going to take both of these, and there they are, both of those, and we're going to go to Photo, Edit in, not Photoshop, but open as layers in Photoshop. So it will take both of the images, put them in a file on top of each other. All right. So here's our one with the gray clouds. Here's the one with all the foliage and stuff in the foreground. So they were not taken in exactly the same spot, and even the crop's slightly different. How do we get this to line up? Here's the cool thing. Let's see, which one do I want on top? Does it matter? Yeah, we'll leave that on top. We're going to change temporarily the blending mode from normal to difference. Now, it's kind of a freaky effect, but hit the V key, which is your move tool, this thing right here. And what difference does is it shows you what's different between the two layers. I need the castle to line up on both images. So I just click and drag until the castle lines up. It doesn't have to be exact. Look at that. When that happens, that means it's lined up. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that's different for each image, but that's okay because it's the castle and maybe the foliage. Let's see. Let me check this a little bit more. Just move it around a smidge. And you know what? Actually, I think let's go with that. Let's see if that works. So I can change it from difference back to normal. And now when I turn this off, you can see how the lights changed over the half hour. But look at the gray clouds. But again, unfortunately, I like this. But I like the clouds. So how do we get it both? Well, this is this is the one we want the background in. This is the one we want the foreground from. So we're going to add a mask to this, which is the rectangle with the circle in it down here. That gives us a mask. So let's get a brush. Get a nice big one. Let's get a nice big brush here. And what don't I want from this image? Well, I don't want all of the things up here. Let's just start painting with our brush, and look what happens. How cool is that? Are you excited? Are you excited out there? I also don't like this tree. It's a little bit too much. Tell me that isn't super cool. All right, let's make the brush a little smaller so we can work a little more locally. Actually, there's something here. Actually, I'm going to want to put that back. Let's just get the foreground here, get the stuff that needs to line up, and let's get rid of that tree. And as we do that, we can darken that. And then we can hide, and look what we got. Tell me that isn't super cool. Come on, say it. No, don't say it because you'd be wrong. That's cool. So, and since we used the sky from the one, we actually ended up getting more sky out of it. Now, I mentioned over on the left-hand side there's some benches and people. Didn't necessarily want them in there. And here's our mask. If I option click on that, oh, there's a little piece here, but I'm not going to do anything about it because I actually want to bring them back. And because underneath, what did I do? Yeah, underneath, let's see. So if we click on here and hit X to put white in the foreground, what happens if we paint with a brush on the mask over here? And voila, they're gone. Now, we had a little bit more over to the left. That's why there's that bench is still there. We're going to end up cropping anyway because you can see our new image actually ends right here. But again, I still think I'll save that for Lightroom. Anything else in here we want to fix? No, because the stuff that's still bothering me is actually still easier fixed in Lightroom, because noticeably we have a sky color and luminance change that's a little too violent for my liking. So let's go ahead and just send this into Lightroom. But one more time before we leave. Come on. How cool is that? I've been teaching Photoshop since 1994, and I look at that and I think that is cool. All right, Command S to save that. And back over to Lightroom. And there it is. You can see the part over here that doesn't match. So we'll hit I to get rid of the info. Let's bring up the crop tool and cut to the chase. Let's get rid of the stuff over here we don't want, which isn't a lot, just that. Do we want all the sky? I think we do. I think we're just going to leave it as is. Because I mentioned the sky was a little bit of a problem for me. Let's select sky. So we select the sky. Got a little bit too much of the clouds. Let's see if it's going to bother it. Because what I want to do is go to the point color slider, the eyedropper rather. Click up in there. And what I want to do is use the variance slider, because if I bring it to the right, it will make the blues further apart. If I bring it to the left, it evens the tone out from light to dark. See what's happening there? So I'm going to bring it to the left a little bit, and then I'm going to adjust the color. We'll bring up the hue to the right a little bit, which is bluer, and brighten it up a smidge. So let's brighten that up. And that looks a lot better. Yes, this is lighter over here, but yes, the sun is going across from the left to the right, so it should be. But is it maybe a little too much because it's drawing your eye, almost slightly pulling you out of the image? Let's find out. M for linear gradient. I'm going to do a big gradient across here, right across there, and we're going to use intersect again. Intersect that with the sky, because that's the area that I want. And let's just bring the exposure down a smidge. That's all it needed. In fact, while we're here, we can make the whites brighter. And bring that back down. Actually, now it's made it a little more saturated. This is a slightly different color blue. I mean, the sky really is a slightly different color blue, but it's bothering me. So let's do another one. Let's do another M, and I'm going to bring it over from this way, and again intersect with the sky, and let's brighten that up a little bit just to make the tones a little more even. It's the right side's a little more cyan. In this case, strangely enough, I like that. What does cyan mean? It means not only is it a little bluer, it's a little greener. So let's bring the green in a little bit, which will, you see I can bring it over way far. We won't do that. Let's just do that just a little bit. I'm okay with the little bit of a gradation. It's real. And let's do our vignette under effects. Now, as I'm doing this, I want to create a little more motion to this image. I love this brush in the foreground. I want to use it as a landing spot to get you into the image. So we're going to use a brush. And I'm going to turn off auto mask because I want it to go everywhere I drag it. And I'm going to start here in this corner and drag up to the base of the castle, just like that. We might want to add more, but let's just bring up the exposure a little bit. And let's open up the shadows a bit. Oh, yeah. And again, does it look like I did anything? Watch when we turn it on and off. Look at see how it lights it up? And notice how it's now created a subliminal path. You can't even see it if you didn't see the before and after. But now you have this brighter spot that draws your eye at the base and takes you right up into the shot. And that's cool. So one more time, let's see, there's our second one. Let's take a look at our two shots. Let's go full screen. 1, 2, and then the composite. Oh, that is so cool.
Jim says, okay, it's cool.
All right, good. You have to all agree with me or I'm not moving on. Only kidding. All right. But to me, obviously, that was fun to me. Actually, now as I look at it, I want to crop a little of this guy out. Just create a little more motion left to right. There we go. Love it. You get a 3 rating. 834. All right, let's do dessert. Now, this image, I remember taking it. I thought it was kind of interesting, and I knew it was the raw file was going to be pretty bland. And it is. Take a look at it. This is actually the shot we started with at Fisher Towers. This is actually looking left from where, kind of pretty close to where I was standing here. And this plant, by the way, is called a Mormon tea. And I loved how the green was up against the red rocks, but obviously it needed some help. So let's command apostrophe that. And let's see what the basic stuff will do for us. So what are the problems? Let's bring the highlights down. We'll open up the shadows a little bit, but I think it's mostly a presence and saturation thing. So, that's looking better. I'll even add a little dehaze, and we'll add vibrance and some saturation to bring those red rocks alive. And again, that's what Fisher Towers looks like at sunset. They are literally glowing. So what did this do for the image? Well, it's a great start because here's our original and here's our sliders. It's brought it to life. We have 2 different color temperatures going on here, though. This red stuff is what the camera obviously did its white balance off of, because this is very accurate. The sky is off now, so let's select the sky first. The sky's going to need some dehaze. Let's scroll down to that. Let's see. And some clarity. And of course, when we do that, now we have to get our eyedropper and push it over to blue a little. There we go. But we've got to bring the saturation way down and the brightness up a little bit. I can already see that this sky is going to be screaming to go into the Nick software, but we'll just leave it for now. This Mormon tea stuff, all right, I've seen this a lot. It's a little too yellow. Actually, in this little brush down there is a little bit too dark. So let's get a brush with K and click on those. All this little green stuff here. And we're going to bring the there we go. We're going to bring the brightness on this up. Also, while we were here, there was rain the week before we were here, and all of the greens were unnaturally green. So take some of the yellow out. I'm going to add a little bit of blue, and I'm going to bring up the shadows a bit more, and that's better. Now let's do the main bush here, the Mormon tea. I'm just going to go around and click in here. Same thing. It's a little too yellow. Let's take just a little bit. Take a little yellow out, make it a little more green, or a little blue to it that makes it more green. Add a little green. We'll add some saturation to it, and then some contrast and a little bit of brightness. And that looks so much better. All right, you could be done here. I'm not done. Why? I want to add a little bit more three-dimensionality to this. I want to add some depth. How do I do this? We need to do some color changing here. So I'm going to get a big brush again, Command K, or just K. And first thing I'm going to do is select this whole bottom where there's a changeover from here up to this ledge. Warm colors come closer to you. They approach. Cooler colors recede. One of the ways we can create depth and force your eye to go to where we want you to go is to de-emphasize stuff that you don't want them to go to. And for that, we can take this warm foreground and add some blue to it to just change the color enough. And by the way, that is not, if you were ever here, that is not actually a bad color for that. That's actually pretty good. But I don't know if you can say, we can bring the exposure down a smidge. No, actually, no, I'm going to leave it there. But look what that did as I hide this. Look at how it's created separation from the front to the back of the image. Now it's changed. Actually, as I look at it, I am going to make it a little darker because we have a different color temperature here. Make a little more contrast, and let's bring the blacks down a little. But just having that different color temperature has added dimension. Look at that before and after. That looks great. All right, what else? You know, I think we're done in Lightroom. Oh, wait, we're not done in Lightroom. Two things. I forgot to denoise this one. Also, I see some contrails. So let's get the remove tool. This is just a Band-Aid job. And I see, let's zoom in to 50%. I see some right, there's one right here. I don't know if that's a contrail, but it kind of looks like one. And this is the remains of one. So let's get a little small brush. I'm going to click once right here. Now hold down the shift key, come to the end of where I see it, and click there. And gone. I can't tell if this is one or not, but it's drawing my eye, so it's going to go too. So I'm just going to, that's a short one, I'll just drag on that. Good, that's gone. And then up the top, this is the remnants of a contrail, so it's going to go too. Let's zoom in on that and hit the K key again, not the smaller. And I think I'm just going to drag across that one too. Oh, I didn't want the K key. What am I saying? Come on, you guys got to keep an eye on me. I wanted my removal tool. So again, I'm just going to drag across that. And voila, that's gone. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, now we're ready. Oh, we're not ready to go in Viveza. Because what do you need to do? Before we do the structure-y kind of stuff in Viveza, anything that's going in Viveza, you definitely want to denoise it first. So let's go ahead and run the denoise here in Lightroom. You guys are quiet tonight, by the way. Oh, and so yes, who said it? Let's see, Robert. You said this is this is a problem here. It absolutely is. We're going to do that. I was saving that for Viveza intentionally. All right, so we've got 100%. We can look at the sky. It is pristine. Everything else is sharp. We could add some sharpening here. I can add sharpening and then hold down the Alt or Option key and drag the masking slider so we don't try to sharpen the sky, just the foreground. And lovely. Now let's send this into Viveza. So edit in Viveza and edit. Because I want to add a little more structure to the sky. And yes, Robert pointed out this thing here. You're right. It absolutely has to be fixed. So let's get the 50-50 slider over. Let's add some structure to this. Look at what it did for the clouds. How cool is that? Saturation. I don't think maybe a couple points. Color temperature. Let's see the warmth slider. I rarely go over 10 on the plus side. That looks kind of Kodachromy. If we come over to the other side, you know, it looks more normal when you go to -10, but like I said, I've been here and some of the other people here have been here too. I'm going to go a little warmer just because I know that's how it gets. So the problem child. Okay, the problem child is up here, and we're going to use a local for that. So we're going to go get that little circular circular thing.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, really. And it doesn't. I'm going to reduce how far it's looking, It's really just this one piece right here. In fact, let's zoom in on it to 100%. Whoops, I gotta get my slider up. There it is right there. So let's bring the brightness down. And well, it's gone there. Just in case, I'm going to take a little saturation out of it as well. No, I can't do that actually, because that calls to it. But yeah, all right. And again, we're looking at this way zoomed in. Let's go out so we can see the whole thing. And now we can look at before and after. Why is that there? I don't know why that's there. That's a new tool. It's annoying. All right, but I can see it's gone. But look at the sky. Look how much it added that life to the sky. Now, is the sky down at the bottom a little yellow? Yes, Joe, it might be. Okay, let's come over here and use this again for this piece of these slight shadows in the clouds. I think it's a little yellow. Let's just cool it off. And look, it's gone. That's all it needed. Oh, that's a global adjustment. What am I doing? Come on, Joe, get your act together here. Warmth. Let's pull the warmth out of that slider. All right, warmth. There it is. Let's pull a little more warmth out of that. And we can even add a little blue. And that problem's almost gone. Let's pull this over here a little bit. Yeah, a little more blue. Because remember, blue is the opposite of yellow. So if you got something that's yellow, it needs blue. There we go. All better. Good. Everything looks great. Let's hit apply. Send this thing back into Lightroom. And you can see now that that thing is under control. However, we haven't talked about crops yet. So let's go ahead and do a vignette. We'll do a vignette to this. Oh, but I'm not done. I see one other thing that needs to be done. I could use a brush to do it, but I'm going to do it a different way, just to show you how you can do it. I'm going to do the Shift M thing again, which is our radial gradient. And I'm following the sun. The sun is to our left at this point. And let's get that and subtract the sky. Let's get rid of the sky. And we're going to open the exposure on this just a smidge, just a little bit. Oh, that is beautiful. And again, it doesn't look like I did anything as you stare at it, but watch when I turn off what we just did. Look at the difference before and after, how much that thing is now the center of attention. That is beautiful. Look at that. It's beautiful. Okay, good. Now I'm going to make 3 virtual copies. So Command apostrophe apostrophe apostrophe. All right, here's our first one. Second one, crop. Let's go to crop here. I really love the foreground. There's probably more sky than we need. Let's come down like this, make it a little more of a panoramic feel. I love this little shadow here. That's got to stay. So I'm thinking something like that. And notice when we look at our vignette that it followed our new crop. In fact, that might be a little too heavy a vignette. All right, so there's one choice. 2, let's hit crop again. What do you think? I can crop from the bottom, but I know I'm not going to like it. Let's go even more panoramic. Let's go here. Strangely enough, this might work. Let's hit enter on that. Yeah, let's see, 1, 2, maybe. Let's go the other way. Let's do a vertical crop on this and see how it looks. I'm thinking a 4x6 or so, so let's do 4x6 shape, which is right here. And if you just hit the X key, that will flip it from horizontal to vertical. So there's our vertical 4x6. And I have to admit something. I hate to say this. I hate to admit it. I think this is an 8x10. I don't tell anybody. It needed a little bit more room left and right. I think that's our crop for that size. So let me see. Actually, all right, so here's the problem. I don't want the plant to get too close to the edge. It's going to feel claustrophobic. But at the same time, over here, there are these little hoodoo formations that are cool. They have to stay there. So I'm going to crop to the right what I feel the plant needs, which is about that. But then we are going to go, I'm going to hit enter on that. Then we're going to go to transform aspect, and we're going to make this thing a little bit skinnier. Watch this. I'm just going to, just like we did with those people on the Cape Cod shot, I'm going to push that over to the right a little bit, and now I can adjust the scale. Let me bring it down so that we're fitting everything top to bottom. Where's the top? There's the top. All right, so there's our whole image. And we have this guy in here. Let's push it over to the right just a smidge. Whoops, wrong one. X. Let's just put it to the right a bit so we can just get that guy in there. Oh, that's better. Because, I'm sorry, that had to stay there. I think we're good. So let's take a look and see where our journey's been for this thing. Let's go to full screen. There's the raw file. Nice composition, and it's interesting because one of the things that makes it interesting is that the green of the plant and the reddish, almost orangey magenta of the rocks, those are almost opposite colors. And that creates a very strong color dynamic and bouncing back and forth between the two. So we did our basic edits, and realistically, I mean, you could see that in the past and say, I'm done. But watch. Look what just happened by putting that radial gradient, darkening the image, putting that radial gradient. If you remember, we had the gradient across here. Look at how much it changed where you look and how much more impact that has. And then we go to crops. There's our first one. There's our second one. I don't know. I'm missing the bottom. I like that bottom there. That's a lot. So no on that one. The vertical, 8 by 10, yeah, I could live with it. But honestly, my favorite is that. Especially, again, when you think, let me just show you that one. Let's choose none of them. So it was this one and this one. So let's go full screen. That one, we just took that and transformed it to that. And that is stunning. Yeah, I could, this is the kind of image that I could frame and just walk by and stop and stare at for a while, because there's so much going on here besides the obvious. By luck, there happened to be the crack in the rock with the shadow leading right up to the plant. We've got the plants down here. We've got these little hoodoos off in the background. Actually, the Colorado River is right here. That's what that little glow is right there. And you get the mesas, and it's just a beautiful place. If you've never been there, this is Fisher Towers in Moab. And we ended up cropping off that top right rock that was driving Robert nuts. So, okay. Any questions? You guys were quiet tonight.
Lynn says, go with Joe if you haven't been.
That's it, Lynn. You tell them. Any questions, anybody? You guys can unmute now if you want, by the way. No? Robert, I see you unmuted.
Nobody wants to talk.
Nobody wants to talk. Did I turn my mic? Oh, I turned my speaker off. Hold on. Okay, now you can talk. Talk.
Tim wants to know what the temperature was.
What was the temperature here? Moab in, what time of year was this? Let's look. This is October, or November rather. Yeah, this was November 10th last year. Strangely enough, Moab is not that cold in the winter in general. They don't get a lot of snow. I think they get like 2 inches for the whole winter on average. But phew, this was sweatshirt weather, I would say. It was 50-ish, 50, 55, something like that. It's very pleasant this time of year. Which, by the way, we're going here this November. We got spots left for this class, so join us. This is one of the most spectacular regions that has an embarrassment of photographic subjects waiting for you. It's ridiculous. And the Fisher Towers, most people don't even know about. But Fisher Towers is just one little side. What's that? Okay, anyway. Fisher Towers is great, but the main draw going to Moab is Arches and Canyonlands National Park and Dead Horse Point. Yeah. We actually are not planning on going back out to Goblin Valley this year unless the group really wants to do it. But it's a master class, so it's a small group. So there's enough other different things that I'd like to take everybody to. We're going to skip the Goblin Valley day and hit some little off the more beaten track parts around Moab. So, all right, any other questions? No? All right.
I enjoyed going 90 miles per hour getting back to the hotel.
90 miles an hour back to the hotel.
That was Lynn.
Lynn. It wasn't 90, it was 80. And that's not speeding. You know that that's the speed limit on that highway. Yes, anyway. Okay. Yes, they were all trying to follow me. But I was doing the speed limit, so I can't complain. All right. All right, well, if you guys have nothing else, you're very quiet tonight. Didn't have a lot of questions. I will say good night. And let's see, when is our next?
Joe, I had one question on the first one with the tower.
Yep, over here.
Yeah. Could you have used the transform to skew that to make that left side smaller?
Possibly. Let's try it. Let's try it. I have so many shots of this place. I've moved everywhere possible, but let's see if the horizontal transform can make that thing smaller. And the answer is yes, but it's going to take some serious de-skewing work after the fact.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, you could do it, but actually, honestly, you know what? I'm going to show you guys one more thing. Let me undo that. You opened up something that, gee, what if that happened? What are my options? Because this thing's really bothering me. Fine. Photoshop. Let's send it back into Photoshop. I just hit Command E. All right, here's the image back in Photoshop. And this was really our finished image. How can we minimize that thing or maximize this stuff? What is the answer? Let's see. How do I want to do this? Let's Command J it so I have a clean background. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking let's select the left side of the image right up to the center of the tower, and let's use content aware scale on this. So let's hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to bring this in to make it less, like that. Yep, I got to make sure I don't hit the tower. Let's redo that. Let's do it without actually touching the tower. We'll go there, and actually maybe just a free transform here, just a Command T, and let's squish this thing together a little bit. Now stay with me because watch what we're going to do. Let's hit enter on that. Now I'm going to Command click on the icon to select what's left, and I'm going to Command T the whole thing from left to right and bring that over here. And I think actually that's a pretty good answer for that. That's a good catch. Because take a look at the before. Let me deselect the marching ants. Look at the before and after by doing that. That changes the perspective. And that was you, Jim, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up because you made me look at it and think, is there another way to do it? And what do you think?
Yeah, that does it. It minimizes
that fixes the problem. So Jim, I owe you a coffee. Yeah, that was good. That was a good catch.
How about you buy me a scotch in June?
You're on. I'll buy you two. All right. In fact, I'm going to save that. That was good. Thank you for that. I might. You know what? I might actually post that in since it's being recorded. I might post that in on YouTube for free, just so people can see that. So That was a good catch, and you get a credit and a scotch for it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So thank you for that. Anything else? Oh, so Tim Rabb said, how about make the center tower taller? Oh boy. That would be a tough one to try to isolate that out and do it. I could change the aspect ratio of this. Let's just try it real quick. I'm going to Command T the whole image again. This time let's drag it to the top. Will that help? Actually, that's not a bad choice. If we do that, I'm getting a little perilously close to the top. I'd have to go back and add sky back in. Let's split the difference. Let's do it about like right here. Just make it a little taller. And yeah, I like it. That works. Is there a way I could get this down? Yeah, there is, but it's not like we're getting rid of a pyramid that was really there, which was something happened in National Geographic 40 years ago that drove people nuts. It is, but this is the place, so I want to kind of maintain this is what the place really looks like. But this change of perspective, I think, worked really well. And again, if I was shooting this with a view camera, I could have done this in the view camera. So that's kind of stuff that Ansel Adams did all the time. So again, yeah, thank for that. Oh yeah, somebody mentioned the contrail on the right. Yeah, I think we fixed that in Lightroom last time. But as long as we're here, you can do it in Photoshop as well, because we can't leave that go. So I'm going to use the lasso tool. I'm going to hold the Option key down. That turns it into a straight line tool, which allows me to just go here, here, here. And we're going to use Shift F5, or is that me? Who's got a woodpecker? Oh, somebody's alarm. Oh, I have no layer chosen. Come on. Okay. If we just go to our Edit Fill and hit OK, and the contrail's gone. And there we go. There it is. Yeah, I like that. Was a nice fix. You forced me to take a look at it a different way, and you were right. So thank you for that. All right. Well, that's all I've got for tonight. It's already 9 o'clock. Let's see. What didn't I get to? I didn't get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 7 more images ready for you. So I guess I know what I'm. Well, and it's even next time, because next time I'm hoping to have a couple of cool Iceland shots for you. So we'll mix it up. So next time we'll get some of the ones we didn't get to tonight. And yeah, and we'll do some Iceland stuff as well. So I say goodnight to you all. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll go back to that final. Oh, that's not the final. This is the final. Yeah, that's going to get a 3. 3 for me is ready for printing. 5 I never use. 4 I rarely use. So, but if you're curious, my star scale, 0 means nothing's been done to it. 1 means it's had an initial edit and it's worth pursuing. 2 is pretty good, needs some work, and 3 is finished, ready to go, ready to be printed. So, and the thing about this is, you're at a place like Fisher Towers, which is where this is, and of course you're looking for the iconic stuff. But when you slow down and you look for scenes like this is the stuff that ends up being really interesting and very different. And the more I look at this, the more I love this, and this is going to have to be printed. Because I'm also fascinated by the Mormon tea bush. There's just something about them. It's very cool. All right, I keep saying goodnight. I'm really saying goodnight this time. So, yes. So, thank you all again. Oh, next, I didn't even say when next is. Here's next. Next will be March 10th, because we're leaving Friday, and we'll be gone for exactly 2 weeks. Diane and I are also going to London for 5 days after the fact. And if I remember right, March 10th is actually a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Because
the black and white the next day.
yes, March 10 is actually a Tuesday night. because March 11th is the black and white deep dive class, which I'm looking forward to as well. And I'm going to actually specifically look for some places, some shots in Iceland, some of the landscapes there that I think are going to be very cool in black and white. We'll explore that all then. So until next time, au revoir, and we'll give you a show. We'll look forward to seeing you again when we get back from our travels. Till then, everyone, be well, and thanks for joining us.